The strategy and the way they've tried to kick the can down the road is by fomenting not the revolutionary spirit, the civil war. They want us fighting with each other.
Yes.
No, it isn't the oligarchs that are keeping you down. It has nothing to do with those people at the top with the billions and trillions. No. It's your neighbor because they voted the wrong way or they wear the wrong color, skirt or whatever it is. Whatever it is that's dividing people, that's what they want to press. So they want civil war, not revolution.
Okay, I'm here with James Corbett, and from the Corbett Report, who's back on YouTube. Congratulations. I wanted to show you this. This is from Grok. 29% of Americans are considered low income. That's according to the U.S. Census Bureau. And that's 98 million Americans. 29% of the population. 98 million Americans are considered low income. And what I've said for years is, what do you call a system that takes the richest country in the world and renders 100 million of its population low income? You call that a failed system. That's what I would call that. And then 70% of the people working live paycheck to paycheck, and half the people in the country can't afford a $500 emergency. What do you call that? You call that a failed system. Those are not individuals failing. That's your system, your country en masse failing. And just one more before I get to the video, highlights. So the CEO to worker pay ratio, it rose from 40. So it used to be a worker made $1 and the CEO made 42. That was back in 1980. Well, now, as of 2021, the worker makes $1, the CEO makes $351. So why do I bring all this up? Well, because they were talking about this on CNBC, and they were talking about a chance for a civil war over this. So now normally they talk about things being left-right. Let's watch. Here we go.
Of course, a civil war will probably prevent more trillionaires from happening.
So he just said the civil war will probably prevent more billionaires from happening. And they're upset because more billionaires means a healthy economy. That is not what it means. It means a worsening economy and a bigger income inequality and rich and poor and the middle class being squeezed out. That's what more billionaires means. But they're upset about this, and they say the civil war is coming. Watch this.
The civil war will probably prevent more trillionaires from happening.
Probably.
We're hearing about that more and more. I think Dalio's spouting that prophecy.
The civil war is coming?
Just the class struggle because of
not between the North and the South or the Red.
Oh no, between the head. Yeah, exactly. Like let them eat cake, guillotine, Gotham type stuff. Mamdani.
So there it is. So that normally on cable news they only talk about left, right. Well, right there they talked about what James Corbett talks about in this book, up, down. So they're talking about it's not left versus right, it's up, down. It's the masses against the oligarchs, the billionaire class that actually run everything. And that's going to be the civil war. They just said it. And this comes from Ray Dalio, famous billionaire guy. He sounds the alarm over a looming civil war in the United States. Our power to hurt each other has never been greater. It's been more than 160 years since America's last civil war, but billionaire Ray Dalio is warning that another one may be brewing. In recent interview on Leaders with France, Dalio was confronted with a blunt question. Could we be close to another civil war? He didn't hesitate. We are in wars. There is a financial money war. There's a technology war. There's a geopolitical wars, and there's more military wars. Then came his more unsettling assessment. The United States itself isn't immune. We have a civil war of some sort, which is developing in the United States and elsewhere, where there are irreconcilable differences. He outlined two paths that the country could take. The first, more hopeful scenario, is one in which Americans rise above it and realize that our common good is going to necessitate us dealing with it so that what works for most people is going to work. But, as he admitted, that may be a little bit idealistic. The second is far bleaker and more likely. I think that these conditions will become tests of power, by each side. It's a stark warning, especially from someone who also cautioned earlier in the interview that our power to hurt each other has never been greater. This isn't the first time he's sounded the alarm about America's internal fractures. In a recent Twitter post, he said, from studying 50-year plus civil wars and revolutions, it became clear that the single most reliable leading indicator of civil war or revolution is bankrupt government finances combined with big wealth gaps. And the U.S. is edging dangerously close to that description. I would say it's not edging. I would say we've been there for a long time. The U.S. debt has climbed to $37 trillion with the debt to GDP ratio of 125%. That's up 100% from a decade ago. He's warned that when debt rises relative to income, it's like a plaque in the arteries, eventually choking off spending. Meanwhile, wealth inequality has ballooned. The wealthiest 1% of Americans now hold 31% of the nation's net worth, up from 22.8% in 1989. By contrast, the bottom 50% watch their share shrink from 3.5% to just 2.5% over the same period. Those widening gaps, combined with rising fiscal strain, are precisely the kind of warning signs Dalio says often precede civil wars and revolutions. If his warning has you on edge and wondering how to protect your wealth in turbulent times, it may be worth considering assets that can help weather a crisis. That's why I say call my friends at Monetary Gold. James, what do you say to this? First of all, it's surprising to see CNBC talk about a different kind of civil war. It's not left-right, which it isn't, right? And you talk about this in your book extensively. So go ahead, take it where you would like.
Okay, I think there are three levels of warfare that we're talking about here. The first and overarching one that is already happening is the fifth generation war on everyone. So for people who don't know, military theorists have been talking about 4 generations of war for a long time. There was the old kind where armies would line up on battlefields and shoot at each other. That developed, and then we started to get the guerrilla warfare and things that we saw in Vietnam. Then 4th generation warfare. Now there's something called 5th generation warfare, which is essentially the governments of nations warring against their own citizens economically with biohazards and biosecurity threats and with information warfare, everything that you can think of. Basically, the oligarchs who really run the country, not the politicians, trying to control the masses in various ways. But when the population starts to wake up to realize, oh, hey, there's this warfare, and I think it's the government that's warring against us. What do you do about that? And that's when you start to get into that revolutionary war kind of thing that the CNBC hosts or whoever are fretting about. Oh my God, this might prevent more billionaires from rising. But at that moment, I think there is that kind of crisis moment of realization and, hey, we've got to do something about this. The question is, what will the oligarchs do about that? And we saw in 2008, the last time we saw that sort of realization, hey, what the hell is happening? Suddenly there's a $700 billion bailout on the table. Remember when that was a lot of money? And people were starting to, too big to jail, all of that sort of stuff. That's a revolutionary moment. People start rising up. You got people on the right in the Tea Party. You got people on the left in Occupy Wall Street, basically saying the same thing. We're the 99%. There's 1% at the top that's trying to control us. So what do? They make everything about transgender bathrooms. And that becomes, the big talking point of the 2010s. And bye-bye all of that talk about, real revolutionary stuff. And now we're just going to war about the culture war. So I think the strategy and the way they've tried to kick the can down the road is by fomenting not the revolutionary spirit, the civil war. They want us fighting with each other.
Yes.
No, it isn't the oligarchs that are keeping you down. It has nothing to do with those people at the top with the billions and trillions. No. It's your neighbor. Because they voted the wrong way or they wear the wrong color, skirt or whatever it is that's dividing people. That's what they want to press. So they want civil war, not revolution.
That's very well put. That's exactly that's been the message of this show for a long time now, that they want the left and right fighting, because if we realize we have more in common that divides us and that we share a common enemy, which is the oligarchy, then we'll come together. So they have to make sure we don't come together. And the way they do that is to keep us fighting over bathrooms, keep us fighting. Michael Schellenberger, I saw him do a whole presentation on this, that, when he had Occupy Wall Street, and we had the Tea Party, they were both complaining about the same thing. They were both saying, hey, why are the banks running our lives, wrecking our economy and pocketing cash doing it? And while we have to get kicked out of our houses and we all feel the pinch of a recession, and they wanted to come together, and so they had to stop that. And so Michael Schellenberger makes the point that that's when you started to see all these in newspapers and in the media talk about racism, talk about nationalism, talk about Nazis, talk about white supremacists, and then talk about bathrooms and trans issues. It went off the charts, right? That what really spiked in the mainstream media. And let's remember what Chomsky taught us, that the media is not there to give you the news. I know people still turn on the TV and read the New York Times because they think they're getting the news, and what they're not getting that. You're getting, they're manufacturing your consent for the oligarchs' agenda. That's what the news is there for, which is why they passed the Telecommunications Act in 1996, which took us from 50 different giant media companies down to six gargantuan, colossal, unimaginable giant media companies. So now it's easier to control. You just have 6 companies. Everybody who works in journalism or media is going to end up working for one of these 6 companies. And one of the 6 of the media right now in America is owned by a violent or a Zionist who is a very vocal Zionist. He owns an Israel loyal person who now owns 1/6 of the American media. One person, and they own TikTok. Same people, and it's all at the behest of Zionism. So it's getting harder and harder to make that case that they don't run the media when one guy buys the media at the behest of Israel and Zionism. Yeah, that's exactly what you were talking about. They completely tried to stop the revolution. They don't want a revolution. Neither does Bernie Sanders, by the way. They got him to take the revolutionary energy in the Democratic Party and funnel it back into the Democratic Party, which is an anti-worker, pro-war party. It's pro-Wall Street. You can't be pro-Wall Street and pro-worker. Those things, they don't mix. And so they've decided to become the party of Wall Street. And idiots, all my idiot friends in Hollywood still think that Democrats care about workers, even though Joe Biden squashed a railroad union strike, which would have set the template for workers nationwide. And of course, he had to squash that. But anyway, anything else you'd like to add to this? Because it was really shocking when I saw them on CNBC talking about the 99% coming together against the 1%, because that's what that is.
Yeah. No, well, all I can say is this is a revolutionary moment if we understand it for what it is. But unfortunately, as you say, the media is such an incredibly important part of this, shaping people's perception, not just telling people what to think, but basically putting the framework on how far they're allowed to think on any given subject. And if they frame everything in a certain way, they can get people to stop thinking of it in those revolutionary terms, which is why it's even interesting, as you point out, that they're even talking about it this way. You would think they would try to put it into some sort of left-right, it's about Trump politics or whatever. No, they're starting to understand, well, they're at least letting on that they know that this is about real revolution. And that's what we have to do, I think, in the independent media, is stress those factors that they're usually never going to talk about on the mainstream news.
Well, it's like how they had to pretend that Barack Obama was some kind of communist socialist radical, because they had to keep that left-right pretend game going, right? They had Barack Obama was the biggest tool of Wall Street. That's the irony. His entire cabinet came from an email from Citigroup. The Citigroup Bank and on Wall Street sent an email to the Barack Obama campaign with a list of people they wanted in his campaign. Every one of those people on the list ended up in his campaign. So that just shows you that it's all ready. So the Republicans and Democrat, it really is a show. It really is theater, because Barack Obama did almost exactly what John McCain would have done, did exactly what Mitt Romney. In fact, he gave us Mitt Romney's healthcare plan. That's what Obamacare is. It's Romney care. And so this goes even more to the point that this left-right divide is completely manufactured to keep us divided, which means we can keep us controlled. That's my thesis, right?
Yeah, that's it. But don't worry, I'm sure Bernie and AOC are going to save us all with their anti-oligarch tour in their private jets.
In their private jets. They're taking private jets on an anti-oligarch. By the way, they didn't have anything to say about the oligarchs for 4 years when Joe Biden was president. Isn't that funny? In fact, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had more billionaire donors than Donald Trump. But right now, they're upset about it. They're upset enough to take a private jet over to your city. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but again, that's why I think people are starting to understand this, and they'll never talk about the awakening that's happening on the nightly news. Never ever expect that the revolution will be televised. So again, it's up to voices like ours to at least point this out and to let people out there who think, oh, I'm the only one who understands what's going on. I'm the only one who sees this. No one else. No, you are not alone. There are many, many, many people who understand what's going on. And when we start uniting on that issue, then there's a real contest going on. When it's about civil war and about fracturing people along party lines, then we lose.
Do you think that will happen? Do you think that the people will? I mean, I've seen hope of it. I saw Christian Small start a union at the Amazon Fulfillment Center on Staten Island, which is made of Trump voters. So I was a black guy getting Trump voters to join together to oppose the oligarch, Jeff Bezos, one of the biggest ones. Do you see that happening more? Do you really think that could happen? Because if it doesn't happen, we're over as a country.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm in Japan, and it's the same boat over here. I mean, I think unless I saw some possibility for this happening, why would I even be here talking to you? I'd just be off drinking myself to death or whatever. No, there is a possibility that we can have that shift, and we have to understand that it's enemy propaganda. Don't worry, lay down. There's nothing you can do. It's all taken care of. We control everything. No, they do not control everything. In fact, the power of our society rests so much on us giving our time, our energy, our resources, our attention, working in the jobs to create the things for the oligarch's economy. That if we en masse understood that and opted out of it, we could have a difference. And, that sounds like, oh, that's never going to happen. Well, I don't know, when the SNAP program suddenly stops working and all of these 1/3 of the American population that's struggling to make ends meet suddenly can't even feed themselves, that is truly revolutionary times. There's a reason why "let them eat cake" is the quintessential oligarch out of touch phrase. It's because, when people get hungry, that's when the guillotines start coming out.
When is the SNAP benefits due to run out?
I believe November 1st, right? Isn't that when the first non-payment is going to happen?
Oh, no kidding. So they've got to figure out something on this Epstein vote, because they got to get the Congress back in session, because that will start a real revolution. A lot of MAGA on SNAP, a lot of MAGA need their health insurance subsidies for Obamacare. A lot of MAGA need Medicaid. A lot of MAGA need Medicare too. So that bill's coming due, and I predict bad things for the Republican Party, which it doesn't matter, because the oligarchs don't care if it's the Republicans or Democrats in power. They get exactly what they want no matter what. No matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. You've heard me say that a million times, and that's what Donald Trump is proving to be. He already bombed 2 countries at the behest of in the first 5 months of his presidency, he bombed 2 countries at the behest of Israel. He's still funding the Ukraine war. He's not stopping that. Now he's trying to overthrow Venezuela. He's going to, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, there's a million things. He did close the border, so I'll give him that. He closed the border. Congratulations. All right, James Corbett. Everybody, check out this book. It's now. Is it now in paperback? Is that what the big deal is?
It is now in hardcover. There's now a nice, juicy, wonderful hardcover that is available at reportagebook.com. And there is an audiobook coming by Thanksgiving.
It's a great book. Every time I pick it up, it's laying on my desk, and every once in a while I'll just pick it up and start thumbing through it again. It's just mind blowing. It's really, you have a real clear way of speaking to people and articulating the real problems, not the fake problems that people think are the problems, but the real problems. And the real problems are up, down, top, down. They're not left, right. All right, James Corbett, congratulations on your YouTube channel being restored. And did they give you all your subscribers back too?
Theoretically, but I think, like you, I'm not on that juicy corporate algorithm, so I am not getting the views anymore that I used to get.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah, you are borderline content, my friend. Yeah. As am I. Anyway, all right. Pleasure to always talk to you. Good day in Japan. Hope to see you again soon.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Come see us in Australia. Second show's added in Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. We'll see you in Burbank, California, the day after Thanksgiving. It's a Friday. And then Pottstown, Pennsylvania, December 6th. Plus, January 11th, we're going to be in Waikiki at the Blue Note. Tickets not available yet for them, but go to jimmydore.com for a link for all the other tickets.